Welcome to the Hawkcast, featuring your hosts Troy Donis and Sean McMahon, here to talk you through all things in the South Warrandyte cricket world.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hawkcast. You are here with hosts Troy Donis and Sean McMahon. Sean, how are you going?
Very, very well at the moment. South Warrandyte's going very well. We're going very well. We've got teams in the top four in the top four grades. The fives are just coming off 2 consecutive wins. Woo-hoo. And everything's happy days moving into finals time.
Loving it. On the show this week, we're going to talk, obviously, a bit of South Warrandyte, but the theme for this week, as you might have seen in the show title, is the next big thing. And we have the current big things, but also back in the day, the next big things. Tom, Peter, Budge and Darcy Price talking about how it was to be king of the world at 13 and then suffer a little bit of a decline.
I tell you what, you're calling it the next big thing. Unofficial show notes, it's where did it all go wrong? And I think you might be to blame for Thomas, Peter, Budge. I'm not sure what happened to Darcy. Maybe it's Jack Hole, maybe it's Shane Biggs.
A little bit of bullying in there, maybe. Yeah, a little bit of
like that.
Yeah. And so we're going to talk through their great junior careers and then back down to how they came crashing back down to earth. It's pretty interesting to be doing a how he came to this point, or this is my life type segment when two blokes are in their 20s, but such is the state. It's all relative, I guess, but such is the state of their careers and their life.
Now, actually, just to go in on that, of two guys in their 20s at a specific point, I just want to paint a picture for everyone. So we're doing our podcast. I believe this is podcast number 5, and Donis and I are huddled in the hallowed rooms at South Warrandyte Cricket Club.
Shutters down
in the dark, and we're just both, and I hope you can hear that in the background, there's a bottle being turned
Our sponsors,
shut.
Good sponsors, good friends of the show.
And we're both just having a little shot of tequila to get ourselves up and about for tonight's show for you guys.
Bit of blue agave.
I think things have gone wrong for us, but at the end of the day, we never had any cricketing talent.
Exactly, we're living up to our potential. They're living down to theirs. Speaking of doing shots of tequila, recently we had a ISO rain card be able to play. Just an ISO card. It's a rare card, probably the rarest card in the pack. Lockdown hit us last weekend, and everyone was able to get absolutely blind on the Friday night before midnight. I think a few boys came around to the club even. That was a really, really nice time.
I can absolutely confirm that the club was the busiest it's ever been on a Friday night. There were blokes everywhere, jugs were flowing, cruisers were being uncapped. I think some rogue even might have got into the Bundies.
Whoa, a bit of fighting juice.
It was an incredible time to be alive on Friday before no cricket guaranteed, and you had 5 days of no mates. So extraordinary,
great scenes,
situation to find yourself in, and that might actually tie next into something that may have been picked up, and I don't know if he wanted it to be picked up, but there's a young fella at this cricket club,
a great clubman,
by my reckoning, has done more selfless acts for this cricket club this year than I've seen from anyone in a long time.
Absolutely.
He's been around here for a long time. Declan Mulqueen.
The Otis, to be fair.
He's caused grief in the past, but my God, is he killing it this year. And unfortunately, he might have
let it slip a little bit.
He might have let it slip. I'm not sure. It might have been just after Christmas. And Aidan Hill, who can be quite a persuasive individual, said, look, come down
Doesn't mind a beer.
Come down to the pub with me, young fella. And he tucked him under his arm. And
dynamic duo, that.
It's a very nice duo, to be honest. Couple of landscapers getting the world reshaped. And Dex may have reshaped himself that night. And he sends Damo a text quite early on Saturday morning to say...
Around 6 a.m?
Sorry, mate. I'm not able to play cricket tomorrow. I've got to take my sick mum to hospital.
Oh, Dex.
Unfortunately, that was sent at about 6 a.m.
Don't put your mum in this, Dex.
Because he may have only just been getting home at 6 a.m.
Jeez. Only wicketkeeper in his team listed as well. Really let the boys down there.
Which, look, to be honest, Dex, there's no issue with partying until 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning.
You've got to pay for your good times, mate. You can't be letting the team down like that.
But you've got to show up. And personally, I'm in a confessional at the moment, so I think I might have only rolled into bed at about 5:30 that
Still
morning.
got there.
But I was still there. I was
That's what
still
men
doing
do.
what I could do for the team that day, even if I hated every minute of it. But sometimes you just got to man up and push through those tough times.
Well, I'm glad this isn't a confessional, so we'll move on from that. Obviously, the teams are flying. We were saying before, the Ones have won 7 games in a row, including T20s. Form is an amazing thing. I think one of the catalysts for this, we all have spoken about him before, but we'll speak about him until the cows come home, is Alamda Raza, the Razzadazza.
A lot of razzle-dazzle from that man at the moment. He's just swanned into the club. I think we got the little message from Cameron like, I got a friend.
The king.
The king of Hazara. He hits bombs, Shawnee. He hits bigger bombs than me.
Bowls handy too handy. Or good fielder too. Or genuine all-rounder.
Great fielder. And so he rolls in and we try and keep him our little secret down in the twos. We
Didn't last. Got a gig in a T20, was probably our best player in the T20 final. And then on the Ones on a Saturday, we make a pretty pitiful score, I think 119 maybe. And he comes out and takes 4 for 7 off 8 overs bowling, left arm off spin. And it is just gorgeous to watch. Smooth, runs between the umpire, flights it lovely, gets over a fair bit of rip on it.
Yeah,
a dip.
genuine mystery spin.
Yeah, it's just genuinely good to watch. It's really clever stuff, crafty. He's too good, is the facts. He's brought up BT as well, so he went up there, made a 50. So if anyone knows any more Afghani, Nepalese guns, please give us a call.
We're a very, very welcoming club, and I think we can really find a place for them in anywhere amongst us. Now, Raza, I might also just have a little addendum to this, was really capturing our eyes. Like we've talked about the Tom Peter Budge, Kubra walking out to bat, but Raza has been swanning around, not in the hallowed baggy brown or not in the old school, very, very worn South Warrandyte blue cap. No. He's been swanning around in a white visor.
Oh, that is sexy. A visor.
The hair poking through the white visor. We think that's outrageous, but we like it a lot. There's a lot of vibes about that, and it's doing heaps.
I really like it. He is doing a lot for us aesthetically. And speaking of aesthetics, there's nothing better than looking at a scorecard. You rolled a team up for bugger all. In this case, it was 47, and then you've pipped them in less than 10 overs. I think it was 8 overs. The twos absolutely rolled Lilydale, the team that had beaten them in the preliminary final the previous 2 seasons. Young Jackson Emery 4 for 11.
Yeah, no, unbelievable. I mean, look, to be honest, I was a bit excited through Emma's, and he's playing 3s early in the year. I thought, look, we might be able to get him up, and I think he's going to be a long-time prospect for us.
He's a good friend of the podcast now, Emma's.
He's a very, very good friend of the fellow podcaster as well, actually. Yeah. Shout out to his show. I'll put the link in the bio.
Yeah, absolutely.
And JM has just came in and rolled through Lilydale, I think 4 for 11 of 8 overs. Just missed out on the Centurion Club, but an absolute art form he's bowling that day. They were rolled for 47, blasted to that score in 8 overs. Happy days, drinking beers in their club rooms.
And resigning them to relegation as well. We're able to say, see you in a few years on the way out the door.
It felt very good, to be honest.
Satisfying.
To be honest, they were quite good blokes. So the team song was sung with...
The door closed.
Door closed.
Rare
that time.
occurrence.
we had to keep it just amongst ourselves. But good blokes. But yeah, no, it did feel like the full circle of life, to be honest, because I think they'd brought our years to a bitter close the last 2 years. So it was nice to bring their team to a bitter close this year.
The Vets are flying.
The Vets are absolutely flying. Now, I popped my head in on Sunday last week to come and watch the old fellas strut their stuff, and my goodness, was that a time. It had half the present, half the old, half the new, anyone who was friend of Milne came down to watch the big fella for his 50th birthday month celebration. I believe Nick Walker got a little shout out for a 2-week bender. Milne's actually taken a whole month off to party this time, which is kudos for him reaching the big 5-0. And yeah, the boys in the first team absolutely dominated. Got a win, takes them to second on the ladder. I think they were 1 for 150 off about 15 overs, just brutalising the opposition. So, no, Vets are flying. Get along. I think they've got an event coming up this week, so strongly recommend get around the Vets. Lots of vibes in that place.
Yeah, love that. They've got the Vets doubleheader for the charity game on Sunday. Some tribal stuff that we've seen around. We love to talk about the tribal stuff, great appeals, just guys, maybe taking it a little bit edgy stuff on the field. One that happened earlier in the year was Andy Solomon's walking out to bat against Scoresby in a T20. Bear in mind, Scoresby had somehow beaten us that day in a week on a Saturday. And Andy just goes out to bat in his jumper in the middle of December in Australia.
Yeah, no, look, to be honest, he comes from the subcontinent. He's used to more humid and warm temperatures, and look, Tuesday evening wasn't doing a lot for Andy. He didn't like the fact that Darcy was spanking him everywhere at that time.
Yeah.
He just chucked on the blue jumper to go out and have a little hit. I don't think he did that well, to be honest. It seems a theme in people acting the fool, but
huge outrageous.
Outrageous.
We not so much of a tribal thing. We're moving on from that. Unfortunately, with some sad news, and our great coach Sam Beagley had some bad injury report from his doctor, and probably is unable to bowl pace again, possibly ever. So the great Beags may have retired, but the good news is he's now a specialist bat and a specialist coach. Can bowl his offies still, so we're hopeful to see him in the top order soon. As you know, when you're not bowling in club cricket, you're automatically a batsman, so no matter what he averages, you can always just get a spot.
It's as simple as that. You'll be an opening batsman. I'm happy enough to show him the ropes. If you're going to be bowling average and you're kind of got a technique, you'll be into an opening position. He tells us that he averaged 28 last year in Wilkins.
He also made 28, but I think he takes cunting around when he got terms to a new height. So look forward to watching Beags just dig around in the future years. Now going on to some genuinely good techniques, the twos the other week. Rock up to East Ringwood, and the bloke by the name of Darren Dempsey is playing against us, Sean.
Never heard of him. I thought, geez, scored nearly 200 here, big ground, batted really well. This is probably should just swan to victory here. And I hear whispers, Darren Dempsey's playing, and people are like, Darren Dempsey's playing. Who's Darren Dempsey? And someone might...
Luckily, Walks had his My Cricket up for us.
Someone pulls it out, and we suddenly realise he played a couple of games for South Australia.
4 games for South Australia.
And now we're not quite at niche Shield cricket.
No, not that.
This is even too niche for that, but he scored 27 District 1s hundreds and
made over 10,000 runs, I believe.
Yeah,
Second highest run scorer of all time in Premier Cricket. Ryder medalist. So he comes out to open the batting, makes 90 not out, and chases that total down with 1 ball to go, unfortunately. But it was great to play against someone with such an incredible technique. He was absolutely immaculate out there, playing with his son at East Ringwood. Hopefully pulls a hammy and we don't see him again though, Sean.
I absolutely hated it, to be honest. I don't know what you mean. It was an enjoyable day. I absolutely hated it. I stewed all Sunday after that. And I'm the biggest advocate for lockdown, so he can't qualify for fines. Not happy with that sort of stuff. Now, one thing that did catch my eye that day was you may be the blindest man I've ever come across playing local cricket, and you forgot to bring either your glasses or, look, at an absolute least, you could have brought some things that sit on your eyeballs.
Yeah, contacts, forgot them too.
So you're just swanning around in the outfield in sunglasses for the whole day.
I had prescription sunnies in the car, and I tried without them for a couple of balls, and it was pretty frightening. So I fielded in prescription sunnies, sort of, I don't know, Pajara style, just...
Look,
Rohit Sharma style.
Look, you did drop a catch in the outfield and you're blaming it on the sunnies.
That's
But look, it was as close to a Glenn McGrath style catch as I've ever seen.
I'll take that. Before we get into our first guest, we've got a few big nights coming up. As we said, we've got trivia, we've got the ladies' night on the 19th of February, or the Friday, followed by the 21st of February, the double header on the Vets on the Sunday, starting at midday. We've then got the trivia night, which has been moved to Saturday, February 27. White night will then be whenever the last team finishes, hopefully, with a premiership and presentation evening on Friday, April 9. So it's going to be fantastic. Old mate Monty Moe, James Fale, absolutely killing it on the decks, on the radio recently. His star is fast rising. He'll be there spinning some tunes and entertaining us through all these events. Looking forward to that a lot. And of course, Sean, the cricket trip.
The cricket trip. Whispers of a cricket trip.
It's happening. It's happening. We cannot wait. It'll be fully decked out. Now, we'll get into our first guest, the man himself, one of the owners of the greatest South Warrandyte moments of all time. Also one of the owners of one of the greatest falls from grace you'll ever see, Thomas Peter Budge.
Thrilled and pumped to get out playing on the hallowed turf of Doncaster East Secondary College.
A lot of long afternoons.
Cold, harsh reality of your own talent comes through to get you.
That guy must really hate his wife.
I think this is just a classic case of make the ref make the call.
And our first guest on the Hawkcast, special edition, next big thing episode. Obviously that monkeyer can take on a few different meanings. In this case, we're talking about when you were heroes, back in the day when you were the next big thing. And the biggest thing of them all back in the day was Thomas Peter Budge. Now I'm going to read out the stats to start him off, just his South Warrandyte career stats here. 93 matches, a batting average of 28.89, very high for club cricket. Two pieces swings all day, ladies and gentlemen. It's very difficult out there at Coleman. Very tough pitch. Bowling average of 27, so batting average higher than his bowling average. We always like to see that. Budge, how you going?
Very well, thanks, Troy. Thanks for having me on the show.
Welcome aboard.
No, appreciate it.
Now, the reason for this episode is to talk about some of those who were absolute stars as a kid. Now, how did you start playing cricket and when did you start?
I started, like most in my family, at about 8 or 9. Dad handing me a Duncan Fernley bat, which was sawn in half. Said, here you go, son, go out and play under 10s or something for North Ringwood. And I had the biggest bat in the team and thought I was an absolute king. And I faced about 45 balls for one. We lost convincingly in the first game.
Couldn't lift it?
Couldn't lift it, no.
Was that non-comp?
That was non-comp, yeah.
What a place
Showed
to
a
start.
lot of promise, though. That was the
I heard Dad's on that day was like, geez, he plays through the beat nicely. I reckon that cut shot's going to be a real winner down the track.
yeah.
And your dad was a coach as well of you through your junior career, is that correct?
He was. Yeah, he coached me from, probably from under 12s through to under 15s or 16s or something like that. So the early years.
The peak years, some might say.
The peak years.
Now, was he a supportive coach? Because I might just jump in with a quick story here. I played an indoor game of cricket with you and your old man, and I believe he burnt you about 5 times and red hot crack at you for bad running between the wickets on that occasion.
I think Budgie gave up halfway through the innings, and when he came off, the quote was, "You are not my son."
But maybe that was just when he became long in the tooth and you'd sort of gone past it. So as a young dad,
I can shed some light on that story. It was more that I decided that I could make the most runs in indoor cricket by smashing everything that I possibly could and not trying to work out where's the best place to hit it. And then I was out 4 or 5 times, and then Dad did say that, which was contrary to his coaching style when I was coming up. It was a very laissez-faire kind of coaching tactic with me, which I blame him now because I don't have any discipline.
Now, around that time, so your dad was the peak of your career, the coach, I think, there, because talk us through your rise to the under-14 Victorian team.
Well, it was actually the under 12 schoolboys team. And so how I made that team was pretty funny as well. That was all Dad, really. So how that team selected is from the school, right from the primary school level. So you go through like 8 stages, and it starts with at your primary school, and you do like a net session, and then your teachers pick you. And we had a net session, and I was trying to smash it everywhere and impress everyone, and I got told, don't hit the ball out of the nets again or you're not getting picked. So the very next ball, some kid dropped one in, like pretty short, and I smacked it out of the net. That's it, you're not getting picked. And so he didn't pick me to go, and then I sat there crying, I think, on the banks, and went home and told Dad that I didn't get picked, and then sort of Dad took it upon himself to get me into the trial game, because I think he might have known the coach from some sort of thing with the school, I don't know. So I went to I skipped the 4 stages and went straight to the 40-man squad.
Which was a huge, very private boys' school. Who you know, not how good are you? But greasing a few palms on the way up, and then where'd you get to from this trial game?
So the trial game, so we were at Maddox Sports, I recall, and there was a bit of a step up from my normal non-comp that I was dealing with, and managed to impress enough to get through to the final 20 or whatever it was. And fortunately, I had an older cousin who had dominated the tournament a few years before, so the name was ever present in the coach's mind. And I hit one shot, I think, in the trial game, and the coach said, "Oh, yep, I'll have him." And then got named vice captain of that.
Vice captain.
Now, who are some of the other names in that?
So team? There's some pretty auspicious names in that team.
Who's the captain?
The captain of that team was Peter Hanscombe.
Peter Hanscombe.
Pete.
What's Pete doing these days?
Pete goes alright. He was actually captaining the Vicks today.
Oh yeah.
He did a really good job.
That's not the same Peter Hanscombe who was averaging 80 plus in Test cricket for a period of time,
that's
is
the
it?
same one. I said to him early on, I said, mate, you're not going to make it with that technique. You're going to have to change it over. He didn't listen to me, and so
Power too.
Yeah. So
who are some of the other boys you're leading as a vice captain?
Travis Dean was my co-vice captain, so it was a good sort of leadership call we had as 11-year-olds. And so, fortunately enough, that tournament that particular year went to Darwin. Was the tournament was held in Darwin that year? So
bit of fishing on the side.
Yeah. So Dad came up with me, and so one of my good mates who went to primary school with Matt Scott was in the team as well. So we went up together with his old man.
Footballer. More name dropping.
Very briefly, I might add. And Dad was very fond of the Barramundi burgers up there. Still talks about them today. But we fought with all the star power that we had in that team. We actually finished 5th out of 7 teams.
Just above the Comets, ACT Comets.
Exactly. ACT. We actually beat ACT convincingly, and the Northern Territory boys had about 16-year-old in the team, and still managed to finish 7th.
Am I right in saying that maybe Jimmy Pattinson was in that squad?
Jimmy played the year before. He was pretty handy as a 12-year-old. He also went to the same school. Off the round on the asphalt.
Yeah, you smacked him around in the front of the dumpster.
No, I won't claim that. He destroyed all of it.
So very, very promising career at that point. And then
it's fair to say you're pretty big at that stage though. I remember you came, when I first met you at school, you were a bit larger, which might be a theme of this episode. You're a bit larger than the other boys at the time.
You're not saying Marcus Cosgrove sort of.
Not now.
No, that is me now. I'd say so. I don't know if I grew too much early. I probably had a bit more strength than everyone else early on, which definitely helped. I think just brazen flying the hands at the ball also helps with 11-year-olds unable to catch it.
I really remember you 7-8, just like smashing balls in the air through cover. Nothing's really changed, but like no one catching it.
No, they catch them now.
Now they do, yeah, but not then.
No.
Just easy 30s.
Exactly.
Very, very impressive start. And so then you said you played at North Ringwood. There has been rumours that you might have been the local club whore and might have moved around from time to time. And I was just jumping on the My Cricket stats and I was trying to just select just South Warrandyte. There's about 15 clubs I went
There's a
past.
few clubs.
Warrandyte, another local rival of ours you played for.
I did play for Warrandyte.
Box Hill with Barry, you were at.
Played for Box Hill with old mate Peter Shepherd.
You didn't hang around with Graham Rummins down at St
I
Kilda.
was about 13 at Box Hill. I pretended to pull my hamstring in a pre-season session, and I was not picked in round one. I think they might have been onto me.
The kind brushes.
Yeah.
So local cricket, then you moved on to Premier cricket because you still had that dream. You played with Peter Hanscom on the way through. What time did you move?
Oh, the world owes me at this point.
So where'd you go to first? Was it straight?
The cousin I spoke about earlier, Dean, he was playing at Carlton at the time and doing pretty well for himself. And so I thought I'll follow him down and try and use the name and sail on his coattails. And it was actually that was sort of the best sort of proper cricketing years I had. I think because I think I was about 16 when I went down there, and I think finished up when I was 19 or something like that. And yeah, it was fun. It was really sort of, I was the team down there at that time. They were winning flags left, right, and centre. So I sort of got stuck in the threes and fours and thought, oh shit, I should be higher. So ended up moving to the Saints.
So you moved from the strongest club to the other strongest club in the league. Can you tell us, I know like Nathan Willoughby, like the Monash Tigers or something like,
Braden
why didn't you go to like exactly. Why didn't you go to like a Casey and just try and like?
I did think about that, but there was too much dishonour in that. I thought it was
And how's your honour now?
honour is completely shot.
Oh boy.
No, someone asked me to come down to St Kilda. Just one man said, "Do you think about coming?" That was enough for me to.
It's so funny saying here.
Yeah, that was enough for me to, because I was studying in Geelong at the time, so I was catching the train from Geelong to St Kilda, which is I think the longest journey in Melbourne you can do, and then playing on the worst track and longest square boundary in Melbourne, which did not suit me at all. Surprisingly enough, didn't go too well at the Saints.
Is it true that when you rocked down, you did the old trick of just I'm actually an all rounder, and you ended up batting like six and bowling a lot of off spin.
Actually, I did become a bowler at St Kilda.
Yeah.
Square boundaries help the bowling.
And since then, you've now come to the point in your career, just a few years later, where you're playing out at scores, being a T20, captain chucks you the ball, and you managed to bowl six in the first front half of the pitch.
That's right.
Get slapped over the longest boundary in the RDCA by a fourth fat guy. Talk us through the decline in your bowling over the years, because...
Well, look, it's just been a slow degradation of my shoulder muscles to the point now I have arthritis and a torn bursa in there. So there's no surprise to me that I put up six Johnny Howards in Crosby 2020.
Can we just get a age check on this arthritis? How old are you?
29.
29, arthritis in the shoulder.
70-year-old shoulder, I think.
Well, I might be challenging you when we get to the custard arm comp later this
I'll
year.
be throwing left-handed.
Now, your Premier career is finished. Move to the positives. You moved to South. How did you come to South Warrandyte?
Similar to how I ended up at St Kilda, as one person showed interest, and thought, you know what, I've had a couple of years off now. I think time to get back into it. I'll play with a few mates and see how I go in the threes and fours down at South Warrandyte.
Sounds like you like to be wanted. I can definitely feel that at the moment.
And then applied my trade in the third 11, I think, when I first came down, and then sharply moved up the grades. And yeah, I've been here ever since, enjoying cricket.
So how many years as South is that? Because previous club hall has turned into loyalist, I would say.
Yeah, I think I've been here 5 years. 5 seasons, maybe six. I'm not sure.
Career highlights, South. Let's just go through the absolute number one.
Let's get to the positives. It's been a lot of negatives here, but there are some positives here, I swear.
was going to say, it's all been downhill. We did go through this a little bit with Andy Solomons, who's in and about Sri Lanka, and everything ends up in South Warrandyte. And you have been in and around
far
Premier
metaphor.
Cricket.
I feel
In and
better about
around
myself
Premier
now.
Cricket, and you rolled out to South Warrandyte, and then I think you played a year in the ones, and I don't think there was a single game won that year, and then
It's very dire.
very dire times. However, I believe it's been talked about as the greatest innings at South Warrandyte, the most impressive one-man innings I've certainly ever seen in local cricket. The scene is set, it's a semi-final. You're playing arch nemesis at this point, Croydon North. They scored 200 on the day before, and you think, well, we're going to need a few runs out of Barrel and some of the other names
Nath
we've got
Willoughby.
down there, Nath Willoughby. Let's hope we can get it all. Darcy Price was another big fish playing in that game.
Amal, another great junior who precipitated right off the
Very
cliff.
strong team at this point. And so you're chasing 200, and Budgie that day took it upon himself to face the first ball of the innings, and I believe he was still there at the end, facing the last ball of the innings. Talk us through that innings.
Well, certainly that day is definitely one that sticks in the mind as one of my proudest cricketing days, I think. It's more for the fact that all the old guys from the club sort of come up to you and go, "Oh, I still remember that day," blah, blah, blah. And that's the sort of thing that keeps it living on, and of course, podcasts.
So first ball of the day, what did you do with it?
I definitely hit the third ball for 6 over fine leg. There was a raging breeze going down in that direction, and I walk up the pitch, and the opposition captain goes, "Oh, you can't be hitting it down there, mate. That's not really cricket smarts." Or some nuffy kind of comment, and I took that personally. Thought I'd make 140 more runs, get us over the line.
Was that the same? Was that down at the on the hill here at that end?
Yeah.
Yeah, you proceeded to hit about 6 cover drives, 6 is about a metre over the bloke's head down with that wind. Yeah.
Just pop it up in the breeze and let it do the work.
Yeah.
Now the scorecard, I haven't actually got it in front of me, but I'm sure you know it because I've been round to your house and it sits in front of everything else on the mantelpiece. There's nothing else there.
I thought I hit it pretty deceptively.
It's front and centre, and it's probably about as offensive as a nude photo of yourself. Just dot by dot from Cheryl of this 143, not out.
Yeah. Top score, I think, besides that, was maybe 13.
Yeah, a 13-year-old kid got 13, and a 15-year-old kid got 18 or 12.
Yeah, 11 or 12.
The extras
I think.
might have topped the...
Definitely, yeah. Now, when Darcy Price went out, it was 6 for 108. I think Channing was
Is that right?
to come out next. What were you thinking at that point? Did you think it was probably a bit grim from there, or did you have faith in the young Channing who was 13 at the time?
I don't know really what I was thinking. I just thought if I faced the most balls here, we might be a chance. But Channy was pretty solid leading up to the game. I thought he could hang around a bit, and he did. He sort of hung around, and we must have put on a few. And then we still had another guy that could hold the bat come out left. So as long as there was 2 guys left, I think we were still a chance because there was enough time. And
Hit him pretty well.
I was hitting pretty
well.
I'm hitting bombs over mid-on and mid-off's head
That
for
was-
fun at the moment. Long on and long off.
The opposition captain, fortunately, is a little bit dull. He's not sitting great fields.
Doesn't know that Budgie hits it over cover. And yeah, I heard a few people say after that, 2 different people will say it was the greatest thing they'd seen in local sport. So huge raps there for a one-man effort. Never seen a one-man effort like it. Probably never will again, except you did your best to repeat it a couple of seasons later. We're chasing again, another 200 against Croydon North. You carry your bat again. Unfortunately, only make 85 this time, but...
Had a bit of help.
Yeah, a couple of blokes helped you this time. You must just love Croydon North.
Oh, look, it's a very vanilla attack, and I hope they somehow catch wind of this podcast. and old Archie wants to bend his back a little more and drop it in shorter, and just go further. I'm afraid, Archie. No, I do like Croydon North.
Is it true that after the second time you were playing at their ground in the final and they went up and you went to get your free beer after the game that they sort of didn't realise you'd not had one, so they went to charge you for it, and then halfway through realised, and you just said, it's all right, guys, I've done enough damage to this club. I'll pay for this one.
I did get a wry smile out of the young bum. Clad in Croydon North gear.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, well, at least, even when things are on the way down, Sean, for us, maybe later on, if we end up down in the 7th or something like that, we know that there is still hope. There is still a chance to come back and be the man, do something special. Probably won't be remembered by quite as fondly as this, but it gives me a little bit of warmth.
It's all relative, I think.
Yeah, it's all relative. Everything's relative. And so some of the other finer moments, I remember a specific Sunday T20 game, the RDCA and their wisdom decided to schedule a Sunday game, and you've rocked up in an Uber to the game from your house in East Melbourne. You've decided to Uber out to St Andrews.
It was St Andrews, yeah.
Can you talk us through why you had to Uber someone?
Look, I'm not quite sure of the rating restrictions on this podcast, but I was a little inebriated. It's fair to say.
You've been down to Sunday
and yeah, I just decided to go out and see what happens. I was in a pretty rare vein of form, and it was only a T20, so see how I go. And the week before, I decided to use Eastfield Cricket Club's training bat,
the old kit bat,
which I procured from their change room. Took a liking to, and it was about half the size of a regular bat. I thought, this will be handy.
1970s sort of, mate, 1980s.
I reckon about 1970s. Yeah,
lovely, good middle.
It'd been knocked in, that's for sure. And yeah, we went on to win that game. I think I can't remember, frankly.
But I always smoked them for sure.
Well, I think you definitely made a 50 in a wide brim that day.
I definitely remember that. And actually, I'm hearing a theme here. So the bat you had in under 10 was very heavy, and then it's just slowly lighter bats.
Yeah, lighter and lighter as I get more useless.
The arthritis really kicks in at this point.
I think I'm operating with a 2.6 or 7 these days.
Now, we've got some very actual important innings you've scored with the bat. I think you also took a 5 for in a T20 grand final as well. So you got some nice, really good, important performances on the field. But I think the one that really did the most for me, and I think we have touched on this in prior episodes
as well. I think it's probably the thing you're most famous for.
I was going to say, and I know Barrel took a particular liking to it, and now tries to pass himself off as you. But talk us through batting in a cowboy hat.
Oh, right.
A couple of weeks back on camera, I believe it was.
In a T20 grand final.
Well, okay. Yep. This one was pretty recent. So the week before, the day before, we were out on a sort of pilgrimage out in rural region, and one of my good mates who's definitely in the proximity here. Sort of had a vision, if you will.
So we're talking almost gospel-like at this point.
The air is so clear out there. Crystal clear. And so the vision was that he'd seen me winning the 2020 in an Akubra, hitting ball over point for the winning runs. And so I'd made a promise to him that I'd go and try and fulfil that prophecy.
Well, you did get a cut shot.
And so I went out there in the Akubra. Unfortunately, I didn't last too long, as sort of wasn't seeing that very well. And yeah,
it was an issue when the second ball was coming at you.
The first one I didn't see at all. Luckily, it was outside off stump. And then the next one, I thought I'd have a go at and just hit it straight to the backward point. That was it.
Yeah. A momentous occasion anyway in South Warrandyte history, and something that'll long live in the memory of certainly myself and all the other boys. Budge, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming on, mate.
No worries. Thanks very much for having me.
Hopefully there's another couple of big finals innings against Croydon North in the bank.
Hopefully they don't make the finals. Thanks very much.
Sean, it's hard to believe, but there is cricket played outside of the Coleman universe and the RDCA. A lot of international cricket been going on. The BBL winded down with Dan Christian just hitting bombs, but there's some incredible test series going on at the moment. England versus India, the real big boys, the real number one contest. We like to think it's always down here, but it's probably happening over there at the moment, as well as that West Indies Bangladesh. Did you see the double ton in the fourth innings on debut to chase down?
Extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. I think as cricket fans, we've been treated to three of potentially the best ever innings of all time in the last 2 years. You got Mendes from Sri Lanka a couple of years ago. Then you see bloody Stokes get England across the line at the Oval, but they're just hundreds. They're not double hundreds.
Double tons. That is big daddy balls, big West Indian balls on the table. First game, averaging 29 in first-class cricket.
I tell you what.
I think Andy has that same average as that.
Thomas Peter Budge averages that down at South Warrandyte.
He's just flopped out a double hundred on the table to take his team home. Fantastic stuff. And you know what? There's a lot of talk about tennis, a lot of niche tennis players. You know, you're talking about your Sammy Draper's, Chris Cuscione's back in the day. But some of these names that are rolling around for the West Indies now will be just as niche in the future. And that man's name will be one of them. Now, the England-India series.
Oh, geez, now that is capturing interest if I've ever seen it.
This is prime time cricket. James Anderson's over, absolutely turned the first game, won him that. And then Virat Kohli's, Rohit Sharma rather, has just come out and slapped him around in the second and taken the piss. It's poised very evenly. For Australia to make the World Test final, though, we need a 2-2 result. So we need England to win a game, or we need both the next two games to be drawn. Do you think there's any chance? Can England come back from here and win another test on these dust bowls?
Look, to be honest, I think the curators in India have seen the winning formula for their country, and I think we're going to see pitches that are day 5 Sydney pitches dealt on day 1, and we're going to see some really ordinary cricket, to be honest. But look, I'm going to sit there, I'm going to watch a lot of it, and I'm going to seriously hope that Joe Root can
wins
somehow...
the toss. It's all in the toss, isn't it? Really, let's be honest. If there's no toss won, they're done. But we hope that coin flips the right way and that they can get into the game at least. They've got a segment that we love here. It's the Niche Shield Cricketer of the Week. Before we get into that, there's been a couple of future niche Shield cricketers, I think, that have just made their debuts for Victoria. Mitchell Perry got Steve Smith. Actually, I think he's pretty good. I like him. Bit of Chad Sayers about him, moves it around a bit. Not that quick, probably never play for Australia, but will be Mick Lewis sort of servant for Victoria over the next few years. Stalwart. But Xavier Crone, I noticed, Monday afternoon lockdown. I'm working from home. So, of course, I've just got the cricket on the TV. The three girls I live with, absolutely loving it. But I saw Xavier Crone sending his little meds down, and I thought this is a future niche Shield cricketer if I've ever seen one. He ended up going for 90-something in his 10 overs. I think he's definitely a future niche Shield cricketer of the week.
He might be too niche. He might be in the Darren Dempsey level of nicheness where unless you actually have a personal relationship with the guy, you've never heard of him playing for Victoria.
Yeah. The niche cricketer we've gone with this week is a very interesting one. Back in the days before Big Bash, they started the T20 comp here in Australia. I think Ricky Ponting called it a bit of a joke. We had nicknames on the back of the shirts.
Absolutely incredible scenes back in the days.
This is at about 06, 07. For whatever reason, they decided to get Andrew Johns. Big Joey.
Seriously,
love the night out, Joey.
Seriously good on the field.
Yep.
But only in rugby, I think, is what we've discovered. Good off the field as well.
Very good off the field. Bowled 1 over 4-9. I think he made a blob. So he played a Big Bash game for New South Wales, which is absolutely incredible.
Look, I might dispute the facts. I reckon he played two Big Bash games, and I'm going to take a little moment to give a shout out to Jake Sammartino, who he loves niche shield cricketer more than anyone I've ever come across, and he did take the time to give us this pearls. So thanks to Jake. No thanks to Andrew Johns. I think you almost brought Big Bash into disrepute after you being involved in that. But
We've been playing with some absolute stalwarts back then. Your Richard Cheekwees, your Brad Haddons, and that would have been there back in the day. But Andrew Johns lining up doesn't really do it for me. And the other segment we love here is our former South Warrandyte cricketers who have gone on to either have some sort of C-grade celebrity or played District 1s. And one of our biggest celebs here ever is a good friend of the show, Shane Biggs. We've decided to hit this cab off the rank. Biggsy was a former junior here. He actually brought me down to the club back in the day.
I tell you what, and that might be one of his greatest contributions to the club that could have ever happened. Shane's a very good schoolboy, and then thought he'd come down and play South Warrandyte cricket. I think that's where he left us. I believe he was actually preferencing South Warrandyte Cricket Club career over football, but unfortunately the scouts down at Bendigo Bombers were going to have nothing to do with that.
He genuinely quit football to take up. Once he got picked in the ones towards the end of his year when he was about 17, he said, "I'm not going to play footy next year," and didn't. They called him up to play, called him up for under 19s game about halfway through the season, and he kicked a few. And Glenn Archer, coach of the Warrandyte ones at the time, put him straight into the ones, and then got the scouts down a few weeks later, and it was all very quick, and he was off to the VFL. But for a good 6 months there, he had retired from footy to concentrate on South Warrandyte first 11 cricket.
And it's the only way to live your life, to be honest. I'm going to allow...
You made a poor decision.
I tell you what, that flag for the Bulldogs, their only second flag in history. Look, you could have won a couple with us, mate.
He won an under-18s premiership here. I'm sure I know which one's on his mantelpiece up there. But it is pretty incredible to think that of the thousands of players that played for the Western Bulldogs, Shane is one of the only 44 to have won a premiership for them. Won more premierships than Brad Johnson, Scott West and Chris Grant combined. So pretty impressive stuff, and certainly one day we'll have him back here and hopefully winning his second 11 premiership.
He still bleeds brown and gold. I think he's been rolling around to a few games just as a witness at the moment. And
we'll twist his arm.
We'll definitely twist his arm. He really, really gets around the cruisers, which have been recently stopped at the bar, and he'll be back in the brown and gold very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's get back into our next guest, the original South Warrandyte next big thing, the man who was bigger than anybody else when he was just a boy, Darcy Price. And our second guest on the Hawkcast is a bit of South Warrandyte royalty. He's a man who has been around for almost his entire life, 20 of his 27 living years. Darcy Price, the big boy himself. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Troy.
Welcome aboard.
Always a pleasure, Shawnee.
And the theme here today is the next big thing. And there was no one bigger around the South Warrandyte talking around the traps, the senior dads talking, the old men up on the hill, all talking about Darcy Price once upon a time. You certainly became, the next big thing, but probably not quite on the cricket field as you would have imagined. And so we've got you here to talk about the highs and lows of your cricket career. First, I want to go through some of the stats, some of the cold hard facts, because cricket doesn't lie in that department. You've got a career batting average of 26 and a career bowling average of 19, batting average above the bowling average. That makes you a good cricketer. You've won 5 premierships as a South Warrandyte player and coach, 2 under-16s as a coach, an under-18 premiership as a flag, and a couple of T20 flags as well. So a lot of success there. But it was back in the day, Dars, back when you made your first 100 at age 13. Talk us through your start to cricket and how you came to South Warrandyte.
Yeah, well, I actually went to sign up for Milo Have a Go cricket at North Ringwood.
Geez, another North Ringwood trader.
There's a reason that Veronica Williams is a life member of this club. She's seen me from across the hill, or saw my mum more specifically, and said, "Megan, don't you dare sign up for this cricket club. You're coming down the road and you're playing with me and my boys on a Friday night."
Fantastic.
And mum, probably more in shock and with a little bit of fright, said yes very, very quickly to V.
No one says no to V.
No one says no to V. And I spent my first year, a little bit of Milo down there and a little bit of non-comp here, but it was very, very quick that mum felt at home here. And, you know, what mum says is best is usually best, so here I am.
Another life member.
Another life member.
So the son of 2 life members, aspiring life member himself, younger brother, also one of the all-time great guys. Geez, it's a family that really does South Warrandyte well.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't even know Eliza, my sister, played here as a young one in the non-comp, and my brother-in-law's playing here.
I was going to say, her husband, I think, is hacking around in our team at the moment. So,
I mean, a lot of people have tried to get rid of me over the years, but there's too many of us, so I just keep crawling my way back.
well, that's absolutely right. I hear a lot of people say, Darcy has to be kicked out of this club, and I say, well, look, I'm happy with Darcy going, but can we afford to lose the clan?
Yeah, can't let Al go.
We can't let Al go.
McElroy's a great
Again.
guy. Now, so you've gone from non-comp and that, and then when did you realise you were probably a little bit better than the other kids back in the day?
Well, I was very fortunate when I was 13 that was just my year. I grew 20 or 30 centimetres, didn't gain any weight, just became a real big kid. And when I say big, I mean tall. You know, I just got tall very, very quickly. So as I'm walking out in the field, everyone is around me, you know, underarm height, smaller. I think there's, you know, a great photo of me and Nathan Willoughby where he was probably about waist height. And that was probably at the point where I felt like, I'm probably ahead of these guys. And
He became a man-child. I can confirm.
absolutely.
I played with my entire junior career with Darcy, and at that point he did actually get taller than me. I think he's about 8 inches shorter now. But
A lot of big dog vibes. You're the big dog of your day.
Yeah, I did see a lot of myself in Big Dog. He's probably gone a different
He's a lot quicker though.
a different path, and good on him for that.
And so your first century, you're 13 years old, you're playing under 14-1s, pretty decent standard, and you've just slapped 100.
Yeah, we'd been in the 14-3s for grading, and Dad was coaching that year, and retired in the first game, and went home and said, Dad, I think we're too good for the 14-3s. I think we need to go to the 14-1s. So I pressured him into putting us up. He goes, I don't think we're good enough. The RDCA disagreed. They put us up there, and playing Wonga Park. Still had to retire at 60, so I've retired at 60. Very fortunate that I got to come back at the end of the day and battled with Zach Chadwick, who was a tail ender for the ages.
Harry, have a go.
Yeah, he did his best, and you know what? I thank him a lot because he made 9 of the best runs of his life and 9 of the best runs of my life, because he stuck there with me until I got to the big 100. I remember Jason Beasley up on the hill going, Dars, you need 1 more, mate. And I freaked out, didn't know what to do, and don't remember anything that happened from there on.
Not long after that, you've been given the call up by Gaz.
Yep.
You're in the ones, mate.
That was pretty scary.
Yeah, had just 14 years of age, one of the younger ones debutants, especially as a bowler.
Yep.
I think maybe Jake Sammartino was also 14, but a little bit different.
another
style.
elite performer on the park.
Yeah. So talk us through that first game against Wanty South, because we were in Trellope back then, I believe.
Yeah, Trellope.
High quality cricket.
Another young bloke in the team at the time, Josh Barrett. He came up to me pre-game, put his arm around me and thanked me because he wasn't the youngest in the team anymore. He said, the first thing he said, he goes, are you okay? And I was like, no, I'm not okay. And he goes, well, what do you mean? Are you all right? And I said, I've just been stung by a bee. And I got stung by a bee on my elbow, and it swelled up so big that I couldn't actually bend my front arm. So it was locked in a perfectly straight position, fully swollen, too late to ice. We were going onto the ground to start the game. We were bowling.
Nervous kid, probably couldn't vocalise, I imagine.
I was so scared. I didn't know what was going on.
To be fair though, if only that happened to Murley.
They happened to Fraser Day on his rider. Maybe we can get him to bowl over in a game.
And I remember that. Went out there, got absolutely slapped around. None for 60 off 10. So that was a nice welcome to the big time. I think I got a bit of a bat towards the end. And when I say bat, it was a couple of balls. So I was out for 0. Just another duck to add to my collection, I suppose.
So quite an impressive start from seniors, juniors. I think in the under 16s we've had a year, 16 twos from memory, It was all about the Darcy show. Would bowl his maximum overs each week. He'd bat, and if you didn't score runs, you probably weren't going to win the game. 750 junior runs in one season. Talk us through it.
Yeah, probably just one of those cases where after Christmas, what was working was working. I felt like every time I batted in juniors, I was bigger again than the kids. So I'd had enough ones and twos experience in seniors that I felt really, really dominant walking out into that comp, and I made a few hundreds after the Christmas break. One of them was on Black Saturday, and we chased down 130 before 9 o'clock. So that was
I remember the poor lads at St Andrews having to run everywhere.
I think it's always good to make that, but against St Andrews, I think we all know that holds a little bit more place in everyone's heart. So out at the cubicle.
That was quite a good innings. I might also draw your attention to the last game of that season. So you got 100. A couple of weeks later, we're chasing a monster score at South Warrandyte. I think they'd scored 240 the week before. They were about the top 10 on the ladder. You come up against Templeton. I think you and I started batting together and we were 5 for 50. And then I saw probably one of the more dominant innings I've seen in junior cricket, 127 in very rapid time. Talk us through that innings.
I think came out to bat in the middle order and had been in pretty good form. And first ball, I nicked one down leg and got caught by the keeper. And he's just gone off absolutely crazy. Bit of Shane Warne 700th wicket style, doing a lap of the ground. And their coach didn't give me out. Ooh. So I stood my ground. I'm not walking here today. I know we need to win.
Only idiots walk.
Oh, yeah, that's it. You don't walk. So I didn't walk first ball and went on to make the 127. So retired there and came back again at the end and got the win. But we missed out on finals by like point something of a %. And rather than congratulating me on my innings that day, Dad, who was my coach, said, "It's your fault we're not in finals because you made a duck last week."
That's tough love.
So, I've had probably, the best innings of my life to date. And all Dad can say to me is, "You've cost your team finals."
God, it's great to hear about dads just being ruthless on their sons.
Really set a tone for my life.
Yep. Shout out to Gary Peter Budge from earlier.
Under 18s, we've got to a semi-final. You're in the 16s at the time, but you're allowed to bring players up from your lower age teams for the finals if you want. I think you and Nathan Willoughby came up. Leon Holloway, sorry. And so I believe the two of the club's stalwarts, some of the couple of legends of South Warrandyte, Matt Falkingham and Troy Donis, were pushed to the 12th and 13th minute status for this particular final series.
Pushed is a...
No, voluntarily put the hand up reluctantly.
And said, "I'm scared of the ball."
Yeah, so we get to the first final playing Cora North, haven't lost a game in 2 years, and they're chasing 120. You go on, we pass 9 down, you've made 91 not out in some driving rain. Absolutely carried us home, and I stopped complaining after that. And then next week, we got us over the line. We won the 18s premiership. Big win over some big names. Then I think a couple of the players that are in there. One's now Noy and some
Tui.
Ahmed's still.
Ahmed.
Yeah. No, that was the most vivid memory. And I think the best thing I can remember is Lurch Tom Hall. Now we all know Lurch. We love Lurch, but he can't bat. let's be honest. And he's walked out facing these guys who all opened the bowling in there once he's wearing a hat. and me being a young kid, I'm like, "Mate, they're bowling quick out here." And he goes, "Don't worry, if they bowl it at my head, they won't get me out."
To be fair, he was only wearing the hat because he couldn't find a helmet big enough for his 5 head.
Be as it may, I've never seen a man wear so many balls and grit his teeth through so much pain and drag us, at least have a partnership there to drag us to the end. But I still just, the big grin of his head just at the other end, just going, "They can't get me out." And these blokes just getting angry and angrier, bowling shorter and shorter.
He just put that paddle up, couldn't get him out. It was a great win and absolutely Mark Blaked me, but it was well worth it for the club. Now, that was all the big stuff, the good stuff, but now it's time to talk about the terminal decline. So from there, how did you get to the point where you were captaining the third 11 in your early 20s?
I'm going to torch a couple of club legends here.
Exactly what I wanted.
Not me, not I, not my fault.
Shane Biggs and Jack Hall, two staples of our junior career. I was very fortunate as a young man to have a small stint at Hawthorn Monash and Fitzroy Doncaster, Croydon Cricket Club, a few turf sort of arrangements, and every time I'd come back to the club, just after my training down there, they'd see me walk in, and for the next hour of my life, they would just berate me and tell me I'm no good, and I've got to give it away. And sure enough, they wore me down to a point where...
I believe fig jam was the operative word around you at the time.
Yeah, well, it was probably justified, but I was pretty good, so it doesn't matter. But those boys, they really ruined my mental state towards cricket, my love for cricket, and...
They basically bullied you out of being any good.
Yeah, well, they bullied me into being a thirds captain, so... I'm still at the club now, so
It worked.
Well, it depends which side of the coin you're on.
Great mastermind shit. I think at third season you won 500 runs by Christmas, so you had to go back up the grades, which is the definition of big fish. And that's probably what more you're known for now, big fish, small pond sort of vibes rather than fig jam. Like big boy. I think I heard a second 11 game recently. We're playing against the Croydon Rangers thirds, might have been their thirds at the time. No, that's their seconds. You make 141, you walk off the ground, the 140 kilo captain says, "Well played, big boy." How did that make you feel?
I felt welcomed. Part of an illustrious club. I'm well aware that my physical stature is declining. I've been this height since I was 14, and I grew the first 14 of my years vertically, and now the next 14 have been horizontally. So in the next 14 don't bode well for my aesthetics, but I felt very welcomed to the club, and it's been embraced by all the boys. I now have the nickname Barrel Junior in the ones because I resemble one Josh Barrett.
Yeah. Sometimes when you and two dads are batting, we can't tell the difference.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's been some cases where two dads has robbed me of 100 because the score's gone on to him instead of me. But that's why we're here, because we're not converting those.
Just on that, how many hundreds have you made for the first 11?
Next question.
and how many have you made in total? Because I know you know this amount.
In total is 9.
9.
At 8 for South Warrandyte.
8 for South Warrandyte.
Actually, a nice little story about that was Darcy was having Who's the Bigger Man contest with Andy. We were around theirs for dinner.
Andy Solomons.
Andy
Solomons.
Wow. But with my cricket page, as well as his ESPN Crick Info page. And Darcy's brought a knife to a gunfight, and he's just dropped in after a couple of CCN tries.
I think when Solo brought out the photo album of all of his cutouts from newspapers when he'd scored double hundreds off 150 balls, I knew I was out of my depth.
How many tons have you scored, Andy? I've scored, and starts to reel off the 9, which we've all just heard about. And at that point, Andy goes to his mantelpiece. And Kessie says, "Have a look at these ones." And there's cuttings from the paper. There's a whole incredible collection of the thousands he scored. He couldn't come to a number because there was too many to get to.
Lost count of his tons.
Yeah, he really, he didn't just put me back in my box. He posted it down to the next suburb.
Yeah, you flopped it out and you got absolutely. Now, talk about some of those adventures you went to before Croydon and Fitzroy and all that. I specifically remember a practice game Croydon played out here against us, and you just left Judas, if you will. That sort of vibes. We were sledging heavily early on. You made an early blob. And the game was a practice game, so they thought, we'll send this Darcy Price back in again. New guy, I want to have a look at him. And you've just tried to block it out again. Just like, you've only got one shot. We all know that. Big boy shot over mid-wicket. And you've just tried to block it out. And you've sticked off twice in one game against your old club. How did that go down back at the Croydon?
Well, it put me in the threes first game. After a couple of hours before that, I was probably looking at a 1 spot. So Sam Beagley rock and rolled me first pill. LBW, Ben Eagle umpiring. It was very quick to give that out.
It was appealing, I've heard.
I actually put my kit in the car so I didn't have to bat a second time. And the skipper made me go and get it out and pad back up to go back in. And then Robbie Bowen repeated the dose, rock and roll me, LBW, duck. Ben Eagle again just said, "I'm sorry, mate, you're going to have to, leave this club." That wasn't even just leave the ground, it was don't come back. I knew at that point that I'd made the right decision getting away from him.
Look,
Gave myself a year to recover.
In your defence, you were unlucky. I had a voodoo doll out for you. Every man who leaves South Warrandyte has a voodoo doll with all sorts of pins in them.
That's
Can't live for any of that traitorous behaviour.
Sorry, Channy. Then you came back though later. You did a fair bit away from the club, but also some coaching with women's and things like that. And you came back as captain coach to the ones in the year Gaz and everyone left. Unfortunately, we didn't win a game that year, but part of that era that turned the club around in the first season and got a whole different culture going. Yeah, talk us through those days for a little bit.
Yeah, well, I'd like to thank David Cutler for doing his ACL and giving me the opportunity to take the reins. I appreciate what he did for me that year. That was wonderful. I had a bit of I was in the twos the year before for a couple of games, batting at 7, and unfortunately a bit of an exodus. I got pushed right up, got the nod for the top job. First game, we went down to Wonga Park by like less than 10 runs, and I thought, we're a show here.
Gavin Maslin, RIP, absolutely sorry for him as well.
Yeah, it was looking really good. The team was going well. Young Fass was just smashing them. I thought, this is going to be a good year. Went downhill very, very quickly. I think my lowest point that year was a game at Kilsyth when I thought that I'd probably back myself at about number 5 and be the man. I've come out, Tom Peter Budge at the other end, and I've left first ball, so I'm out. First ball I've nicked off. And Budgie comes off and goes, mate, what were you doing? And I go, what do you mean? He goes, you couldn't have tried any harder to nick that ball. It was at least a foot away from your body, and you chased it to edge it. And I was like, was it that bad? He goes, it was awful. Anyway, we've been rolled for 32.
I believe I got stumped off a medium pace bowler when we were 9 for 30.
Look, I'd much rather
Keeper was back.
I might just chime in. I top scored that day.
Did you make 9?
Almost got to double figures.
So the end of the day, right? So they've gone out there and they've knocked up 150 in declared. So this is the first day. So we've rolled back in, and Stewie Batten, our coach at the time, was just giving us boys, we can really make something of this. We can go out there and get a bit of pride and a bit of dignity. And I've gone, what am I doing? And I think I put myself up to 4. I was like, I'll promote myself. I'll be the man. I'm the captain of the team. I'll stand up.
Leadership's all about.
Yeah, and I've gone out there. I've got through the first ball. I'm batting with Tom Peter Budge again. Next ball, nicked off, exact replica of the first innings. And Budge comes up to me again and goes, mate, I didn't think you could try any harder to nick it, and you've proven me wrong. You've absolutely torched yourself. So
did Steiner then also go on and break your foot that game?
Yeah, well, I was bowling, and our friend Steins has driven the ball beautifully back into my foot, and I've gone down. We had no subs there.
Shot catch too.
Okay. Had no subs there, and I thought, what can I do? I can't move. So I put myself at short and mid off, because that way I could just turn around for the next over. I don't have to move positions at all. The next over, he's played another drive into the same foot, and I'm done. Like, I'm on the ground. The whole team is just like, this is the best thing that's happened all game. The captain's down. We've got a chance. Let's keep going. And that was the end of me, really.
Yeah. The next season, though, you were coach again, and we bounced back in emphatic style to make the final, won the T20 Premiership. So great work on that. Unfortunately, you soured your little stint at South Warrandyte, little 23-year stint or whatever it is, by taking Josh Exley last year down to footy training, I believe. Convinced him to go to Quarter North footy, is that right?
I wouldn't say I convinced him. I'm going to put that back on turbo. I planned it.
X just like put the little Chinese bird on turbo.
I planted the seed. I'll plant the seed. But Turbo got the watering can out every day for a couple of weeks, and he really made that grow. I will, however, stand up and go, I probably shouldn't have asked the best all-rounder at the club to go to football training the week of the semi-final. Yeah. Probably negligent on my part, but, X is a grown man. He made a poor decision.
He made a poor decision. For those of you out there, X hadn't played footy for 12 years, went to training, did his ACL on the eve of finals last year, thanks to Darcy. So Darcy has a lot to make up for, but he's got a lot of time, and we're on the verge of a big final series. And I'm sure the big boy is going to get out there at the end and smack some real quality runs. Darcy, thank you very much for joining us. We hope to see a bit of success this year.
Based on where my career's tracking, personally, I'm not going to give much more to the team. But yeah, for the club, it'd be great if the ones can get there.
Thanks, mate. Now, Sean, normally at this stage of the show, we would like to give our sponsors a plug. Unfortunately, right now, we're a bit Michael Clark going into the 300s. So if anyone wants to give us a call, RJ Waller, whatever, Bendigo Bank, give us a buzz. Very much taking on contributions at this stage. Our favourite segment of the week, though, is without doubt the questions that you send in to us. Can be about anything. We only have done, like 10 years of psychology uni. We charge about $3.50 an hour normally, but for you, we do it for free. We will answer any of your questions about life or cricket. And this week we've got a story from one of our favourites.
This is from Anonymous, I might add. So I think this individual may have heard that there were whispers of Niche Shield Cricketer of the Week, and they thought, look, we'll provide Mitch Perry, recent addition to Victoria.
Steve Smith is his bunny.
He's just got out Steve Smith, and I think this individual thought, look, talk about the fella. So we've got this. Please answer this question which has been bugging me. In 2015, I ventured to Bayswater Cricket Club training before the Under-18 State Carnival as a coach. Now at Wonga Park believed it would be good for me to be exposed to some turf training before the tournament. After taking an absolute blinder one-handed catch during a fairly elementary fielding drill.
I wonder who that could be.
Which was post that I'd describe as an elegant hit in the nets. Clubbed some fours bowlers everywhere and got deceived by a guy bowling left arm Amal Wiamantries. One of the alpha first 11 big dogs exclaimed, "We don't need Mitch Perry. We've got Josh Exley."
So anonymous.
For background context, a young Perry had just left Bayswater to pursue opportunities at Monash Tigers, evidently leaving Bayswater rather than disappointed. Regardless of the fact that I never played a game for Bayswater, leaving them, both Perry and Exley-less, they clearly had an eye for talent in comparing me to such a budding talent at the time. Just 6 years on, Perry is dismissing the best batsman in the world, the best since Bradman, and the second best batsman of all time, statistically speaking. And I'm spending countless hours midweek stewing over third 11 E-grade side and how I'm going to tell a bloke with a career batting average on my cricket of 3.62 that he's been dropped to the fours. My question being, should I eminently quit cricket or do my Shield cricket dreams live on? After all, I did club scathe everywhere in a 50 ball 77 3 years ago as part of 4 consecutive 50s, 5 and 6 knocks, if you're following. I've been working on the pipes and will probably come back bowling 140s or something.
Oh boy, where to start with this one? For a start, really fits in with our theme, I think. The next big thing, been a really quick decline for Josh, actually.
Absolutely, I reckon. And this definitely takes it more on my segment, which I think is where did it all go wrong?
Where did it all go wrong? So let's get into that, the psychoanalysis of where it all went wrong for Josh Exley. Because I think that's really what he's asking. Why am I so mentally weak? Why can't I make any runs? Maybe like, why did Dad leave back to England? And why doesn't he come and watch me? I think that's what he's really asking here. I think the answer really lies in like his Instagram, his performance generally after hours. I don't think it's any secret. He's a bit of a pussy. 11 o'clock, out the door. Just doesn't have the man about him, He's just not like, if you want to be the man, you've got to really just own it all the time. And X is a bit of a half in, half out. And I think his results really have shown that. So, anyway, you asked, and that's the answer I'm giving.
That's the feedback you're giving. Well, look, I'm going to be probably more magnanimous in this. I'm going to start strong. And this is what I enjoy doing a lot more. It's not taking any self-responsibility here, Josh. I'd be saying, where did it all go wrong? Well, Turbo, that's to start. You can't be letting that bloke convince you to go and play footy anywhere.
Yeah.
Darcy Price is a mentor. He's another one
it's
of
a terrible
this.
decision.
He's a terrible mentor. You can't be listening to that fella. They're probably two huge issues.
Yep.
Now, do your Shield cricket dreams live on? You know what? I'm going to say yes. But you've got to score a lot of runs in South Warrandyte first 11 before they will be conceptualised.
Well, let's say you're only 200s from the next grade up. So you're going to be 2, then 2 to Bayswater, 2 to Monash, 4s, 2. You're only like, I don't know, what's that? Carry the 2. 16 tonnes from Victorian 2. So, like, you know, how many hundreds has X made so far in his life?
I've heard
550s.
I've heard he's got a lot of 50s,
Yeah,
but
a lot
I'm
of
not
50s.
sure he's quite crossed the 100 threshold. We'll get him on at some point to explain whether that's true or not. But
0 hundreds, but one great night out showing Chixie's micro stats. So, like, you know, I'm going to count that as one. Look, I think you're probably an outside chance, X.
I
Probably.
have heard also, and he has asked us to bring this up on every single podcast going forward, did beat Andy Solomon's
I was going to say, I think that's really the main game here.
in the bowling average last year. And he's brought this up as just a segue into him beating Andy Solomon's in the bowling war.
He's outsmarted us. You're already better than a first class cricketer. You beat him in the bowling awards. So, you know what? Maybe X, maybe I owe an apology. Maybe you already are a Shield cricketer.
I reckon you're a Shield cricketer. I think just tell that guy in the thirds he's dropped, be ruthless and become a ruthless Shield cricketer. We'd love to see that.
And thank you for sending in your question, Josh. If any of you have any questions that you want answered, please send them in to at the Hawkcast dot. Actually, don't do that. Just inbox me. You know who I am. All right. Thank you very much. That was a pleasure bringing the Hawkcast to Sean. We'll see you next time.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.